The topic for this video is chemical names and formulas. The essential questions are: what is an ionic compound? How do you write formulas correctly for ionic compounds? And what do the charges have to add up to? So ionic compounds are when a metal, which is on the left side of the staircase, and a non-metal, which is on the right side of the staircase, combine. The total charges have to equal 0, so you're taking a positive and putting it with a negative. So I'm going to show you an example here with aluminum sulfide. We know from learning about what charges are which that aluminum has to be a +3 and sulfide has to be a -2. And we're going to ignore the IDE and just look at the root of the word sulf and to realize that that's sulfur. Okay, so we can use this cross rule where we take the charge, and that's the number of the other ion that we'll need. So because the charge on sulfur is a -2, that tells us we'll need 2 aluminum ions, since it doesn't already add up to 0. Okay, so I'm going to write those there, aluminum +3. I have 2 different ones. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. I have a +3 charge on aluminum, which tells me I'm going to need 3 sulfur ions. So I have 1, 2, 3, and you can see how those kind of fit together in this model. Okay, so that gives me a charge of +6 from the aluminum because I have 2 +3s, and that gives me a charge of -6 from the sulfur because I have 3 -2s. So if I add those two together, I get 0, which is what I have to make them add up to. So the way I write this is Al2S3, and you don't have to include the charges anymore after you've made it equal 0. So we're going to do some practice here. First we have sodium chloride. So sodium is a +1, chlorine is a -1, so that one's easy. We just stick them together because they're already equal to 0, NaCl. You always put the +1 first. Next we have calcium fluoride, and calcium's a +2 and fluorine is a -1. So we're going to get CaF2, and that's because of our little crossover trick. So if it's a 2, it goes on the other one, and 1 goes on the other one, and we're not going to have negatives and positives. So it's Ca, and because there's only 1, you don't indicate that with a number, and F2. So 2 fluorines would cancel out 1 calcium, making it 0. Aluminum oxide, we have +3 on aluminum and -2 on oxygen. So I'm going to do my crossover. And so the 3 goes for the oxygen, and the 2 goes for the aluminum, and I get Al2O3. Another way to think about that is I have 2 +3s for the aluminum, so that's a +6, and 3 -2s from oxygen, so that's a -6, so they cancel out to 0. Zinc sulfide, I have zinc's a 2+, and sulfur is a -2, okay? This time they already add up to 0, so I'm going to just make it zinc sulfide, 1 of each. Okay, we're not going to have zinc 2, sulfur 2. We're not going to use the crossover trick for this because we want to have the lowest ratio possible. Ferric chloride, ferric is Fe +3, and chloride is Cl -1. So using my crossover trick, I'm going to have FeCl3. Okay, then I have tin 4 oxide, so that 4 tells me tin is a 4+, oxygen is a -2. Okay, so again, I want the lowest ratio, so that would give me 10O2, not 10-2O4, even though that's what I would get with my crossover trick or shortcut. If you get 10-2O4, so the SN2O4, you can look at it and see that you can reduce it, and so then you would be expected to do that, the SNO2. If you want to consistently use the crossover trick, that's fine, but you need to make sure to check to see if you need to reduce at the end. Okay, here's some more practice. Lead to iodide, the 2, remember, tells us that's a +2. Iodine is -1, so using the crossover trick, I get PbI2. Potassium nitride, potassium is a +1, nitrogen is a -3, cross it over and I get K3N. Silver bromide is a +1 on silver and a -1 on bromine, so no need for the crossover. They can already cancel out, so I get AgBr. cadmium hydride, I get CD is a +2, and remember when hydrogen goes with a metal, it's a -1. So I'm going to use my crossover, and I get CdH2. Chromic oxide, chromic tells me that that's chromium +3. Oxygen is -2. I use my crossover, and I get Cr2O3. And then copper 2 sulfide, the 2 tells me that copper is a +2, sulfur is a -2. They already add up to 0, so I'm not going to cross over. I get Cus. If I did cross over, I would get Cu2S2, so I would need to reduce it.